spiritual awakening is like a silent storm that sweeps through the body. As the soul ascends and consciousness expands, the body, anchored in matter, struggles to keep up. Imagine a tree growing beyond what its branches can support. The leaves tremble, the trunk bends, and its roots, in a profound effort, try to expand to absorb more of the earth that sustains it. This growth, although necessary, brings with it fatigue. The body becomes the battleground between the old and the new. Changes in sleep patterns, a fatigue that seems to have no source, pains with no apparent reason. All of this echoes the soul learning to vibrate at a new frequency. But just as every tree needs care to flourish, the body also needs nourishment. Self-care becomes an essential key in this process. Meditation, conscious rest, and the practice of being present in the body help align the physical with the spiritual, allowing the transformation to occur without exhaustion. As the soul awakens, the feeling of disconnection from the world around it is inevitable. It's like a tree growing toward the sun. Its branches stretch toward the sky in search of light, while its roots deepen into the earth, pulling away from the surface that was once its only refuge. So too is the spiritual being in ascension. The eyes turn toward the inner light, while the familiar ground of interpersonal relationships begins to drift away. Old friendships and bonds that once seemed unbreakable begin to fade, like leaves falling from a branch that no longer needs them. This can create a void, a discomfort, but it's a natural process on the path of transformation. As the soul realigns, it's as if space is being made for new connections. People who share the same vibration, souls who recognize the new light emerging from within. And though loneliness may seem present, it is the fertile ground where deeper relationships grow, built on a new foundation of authenticity and spiritual understanding. In spiritual awakening, there comes an inevitable moment when the identity, once solid as a mountain, begins to disintegrate. It's like crossing a bridge over an abyss, with no certainty that there will be solid ground on the other side. Soren Kierkegaard called this the leap of faith, an invitation to abandon old certainties and leap into the unknown. This loss of identity may seem like a crisis, a collapse. Who are we when we no longer recognize ourselves in our old stories? The masks we've carried for so long begin to fall, and the soul's echo challenges us to listen to the truth behind the silence. The existential crisis, though painful, is the doorway to a new understanding of self. It's like the cocoon that breaks to make space for the butterfly. The old form must die for the new one to emerge. It is at this point of transition that self-knowledge becomes vital. Letting go of who we were is not an end, but a beginning. And by surrendering to uncertainty, we find a new identity, more connected to the essence of being than to the surface of personality. With spiritual awakening, perception expands like a flower opening its petals to the sun, absorbing not only the light but also every subtle vibration around it. Suddenly, the world seems more intense. The sounds, the energies of people, the environments. It's as if the soul has become a sponge, absorbing the emotions, feelings, and even thoughts that once went unnoticed. This sensitivity can be a blessing but also a challenge. The weight of the world, the flow of energies, can overwhelm like a current that, if not tamed, drags us away. The person feels everything more deeply, and this can lead to exhaustion, anxiety, or a sense of being unprotected. Here, spiritual practice becomes the shield that protects the new sensitivity. Regular meditation, grounding techniques, and contact with nature help balance this expansion. Just as a tree needs strong roots to avoid being blown down by the wind, we too need to strengthen our inner center, allowing this new sensitivity to become an ally, not a burden. Spiritual awakening inevitably leads us to confront our shadow, that part of ourselves that has been hidden, repressed, and ignored for so long. As Carl Jung described, the shadow is everything we don't want to recognize in ourselves, our fears, traumas, and unconscious desires. It doesn't disappear, it simply waits in the depths of the psyche to be integrated. This process is like descending into a dark cave, where what we find may frighten us. But it is necessary to remember that darkness is not an enemy, it is part of who we are. Spiritual awakening is not only about ascending, but also about diving into the depths of the soul. There we find unhealed wounds, fears we've carried since childhood, pains we've avoided facing. However, instead of fighting this shadow, we must embrace it. Accepting our imperfections is the first step toward healing. Forgiving ourselves and accepting who we were, with all our flaws, allows us to integrate this shadow into the light of our consciousness. And in this inner embrace, we find true peace. The shadow, when integrated, transforms into strength, wisdom, and a vital part of the spiritual journey. With spiritual awakening, something deep within us begins to break free from the chains of the material world. It's like a bird realizing that the cage it lived in, surrounded by comforts and achievements, was never its true home. The shine of possessions, status, and earthly ambitions starts to fade, and in its place arises a sense of emptiness. Not the emptiness of loss, but the emptiness of a space that was once filled with illusions. This renunciation is not a rejection of the world, but a transformation of how we relate to it. In Buddhist teachings, detachment doesn't mean completely abandoning things, but rather the freedom of not being possessed by them. We can walk through the material world, enjoying its beauty, without clinging to the idea that it defines who we are. This balance is like walking a tightrope between two worlds, the spiritual and the material. However, by letting go of the incessant desire to accumulate, we find a deeper treasure, the lightness of living with awareness, appreciating the present without being attached to what is fleeting. Detachment is, therefore, a way of living more fully, without carrying the weight of what never really belonged to us. In spiritual awakening, there comes a moment when the heart opens to the world in a way that was once unimaginable. The pain, the joy, the struggles, and the victories of humanity begin to resonate within us as if they were our own. It's as if the boundary between me and others begins to dissolve. Suddenly, collective suffering becomes visible, palpable, like an underground current running through all of existence. With this perception comes the deep desire to make a difference, to contribute to the healing of the world. But this expansion of empathy can also turn into emotional overload. How do we balance the desire to help with the ability to act without losing ourselves in the chaos? Just as a candle can illuminate a dark room without burning out in an instant, we must learn to care for our inner light while extending a hand to the world. Spiritual practices such as meditation, prayer, and conscious service can channel this energy into concrete actions, small but powerful. A greater purpose emerges when we find inner peace and, from that place of balance, contribute to the collective good without getting lost in the weight of global suffering. Every small gesture, every word of compassion, is a drop that contributes to the vast ocean of change. On the path of spiritual awakening, the ego manifests as a fearful guardian, building walls before the unknown. Resistance arises because, for the ego, comfort lies in familiarity, in old certainties. However, awakening is a call to flow, to trust in the vastness of the mystery unfolding before us. Like a river encountering stones along its path, we are challenged to choose: fight against the current or bypass the obstacles and keep flowing. Here, the Taoist teaching of Wu Wei, effortless action, offers profound wisdom. It's about acting in harmony with the flow of life, without resistance. Instead of trying to control the journey, we learn to surrender, to trust that every change, every challenge, is part of the process of transformation. Just as a tree's leaves fall in autumn, we must learn to let go of what no longer serves us and embrace the void that the new offers. Embracing the unknown is, at its core, an act of faith. Faith not in something external, but in the soul's journey itself. It's knowing that, even when everything seems uncertain, there is a greater force guiding us. The ego's resistance weakens when we accept that spiritual awakening is a dance between who we are and who we are yet to become. Spiritual awakening is not a destination. It's a continuous journey, like the cycle of seasons, where each phase brings its own challenges and gifts. It requires patience, compassion, and above all, unwavering trust in the process. The obstacles we encounter, fatigue, identity crisis, the encounter with the shadow, are opportunities for growth, not burdens. They are the invisible steps leading us to a more authentic and illuminated version of ourselves. Each step we take, no matter how uncertain it may seem, brings us closer to a greater truth. And it's important to remember that you are not alone on this path. Others walk this road too, at different stages, and together we form a network of support, understanding, and healing. If this video resonated with your journey, I invite you to like and subscribe to the channel so that we can continue sharing this spiritual path together. Let's explore the depths of the soul and the heights of consciousness, always with an open heart and our feet firmly rooted in the present.